After being reborn, my three sisters can somehow hear my thoughts. Should I tell my eldest sister, Catherine, that the man she showers with affection will eventually scheme to steal her entire fortune? I saw Catherine flinch slightly when she took Julian's hand just now. Maybe I shouldn't tell my second sister, Elena, that Julian will intentionally have her blinded. I saw Elena jump up from Julian's lap like she'd been pricked with a needle. If my third sister, Maya, knew she'd spend the rest of her life in a vegetative state and that Julian arranged the accident, wouldn't she be devastated? I saw Elena, who was feeding Julian, suddenly dump the food right on his head. It's such a conflict. Should I tell them or not? Julian is deliberately saving them only to tear down the Sterling family and pave the way for the woman he truly loves. Julian is our family's new butler. He comes with a charmer system. He accidentally saved my three villainous sisters, coaxing them into becoming his attack dogs, laying all their resources at his feet. But I grew jealous of him stealing their affection and tried to frame him at every turn. Eventually, because of this, my three sisters came to despise me. My eldest sister, a cold CEO, froze all my cards and threw me out of the Sterling house. My second sister, a gentle doctor, secretly switched my medication, leaving me in constant agony. My third sister, a popular star, chose to hide my identity and allowed her fans to relentlessly cyberbully me. My end was tragic. There was no one left to even claim my body. The last time I saw the four of them was in a dilapidated rented room. I was sitting in a wheelchair, dressed in oil-stained clothes, while Julian wore high-end custom clothing he could never have afforded before, surrounded protectively by my three sisters. He glanced sideways at me. Considering we were once best friends, if you apologize to me today, call me brother-in-law. I'll forgive you and take you back to the Sterling house. How about it? Call him brother-in-law? Does he even deserve it? He was the one who disfigured me and left me disabled, shamelessly marrying into the Sterling family solely to bring it down. But sadly, no one believed me. Everyone thought I was just jealous of Julian, that I brought this end upon myself. I clenched my jaw and spat fiercely at him. You think you're worthy? I'd rather die than call you brother-in-law. One day, your disgusting true colors will be exposed. Before I could finish, someone slapped me hard across the face. The force was so great, I felt my teeth loosen. My ears rang, and I struggled to open my eyes only to see Catherine's cold expression. She frowned tightly, as if looking at something utterly nauseating. Arthur, if you can't control your mouth, I don't mind tearing it off for you. I clutched my face, biting down hard. Sis. She cut me off again. Don't call me sister. From the day you framed Julian, you ceased to be our brother. Her words were like sharp knives stabbing into my bleeding heart. The light in my eyes gradually dimmed. I wanted to say something, open my mouth, but my throat was too dry to speak. My heart started hurting again. I clutched my chest, gasping for air. Medication, medication. Elena rarely smoked anymore. But now, because of Julian, she had picked up the habit again. She took 2 steps closer, pressed the still-burning cigarette but hard onto the back of my hand, ignoring my muffled cries of pain, and pointed at my chest, mocking. Arthur, maybe you have congenital heart disease because your heart is too black. I don't think it's worth treating. The pain made me fall out of the wheelchair, nearly suffocating. Maya slowly crouched down, looked at my figure, now almost skin and bones, and frowned. Why pretend to be pitiful, Arthur? Do you really think acting miserable will earn our forgiveness? Let me tell you, you're dreaming. Besides, it looks like you haven't learned your lesson. Her words were full of meaning. I knew what she meant. Just because I cursed Julian once, she allowed his fans to viciously insult me. Some even followed me, pushed me out of my wheelchair, and watched me crawl on the ground. They often left dead rats at my door. The landlord couldn't stand it and kicked me out. I could only rent this broken-down shack next to a garbage dump with a door that wouldn't even lock. Without medication, even breathing soon became extremely difficult. Like a dying fish, I lay collapsed on the ground, covered in wounds. My consciousness blurred. I tried to recall something not painful from my life, but couldn't remember anything. My sisters ignored my outstretched hand for help and turned away, leaving only a low, disgusting. I opened my mouth one last time, then could struggle no more. This was already my second rebirth. I had schemed meticulously, planned every step, but still couldn't overcome the halo of the chosen male lead. This world was based on a Lucky Charm novel, and Julian was the protagonist, aiming to destroy the Sterling family to clear the path for his beloved woman. My three sisters were the main villains, but they would fall for Julian at first sight, be saved by him, abandon everything, willingly become his dogs, and offer all their resources to him. To shield Julian when he was kidnapped, they even took blows for him. One sister ended up disabled, one blind, and one in a permanent vegetative state. To save them from their fates, I desperately tried to expose Julian's true motives, but in their eyes, I was just jealous that Julian had stolen my favored position. I ended up going from the Sterling family's young master to a disfigured, disabled outcast, despised and cursed by everyone. And no matter how many times I was reborn, Julian would weave his way between my three sisters, successfully replacing the most important place I once held in their hearts. I knew that when I opened my eyes again, everything would reset to the beginning. But this time I was tired. When I opened my eyes, I was still shaken. The shabby, filthy shack had transformed into a bright, warm living room. Warm yellow light illuminated the exquisitely plated food before me. A familiar voice sounded beside me, slightly aggrieved. "Arthur, why aren't you eating? Did I make something you don't like?" "I'm sorry, I didn't know you disliked this. Tell me what you want to eat. I'll make it for you." My pupils contracted. It was Julian's voice. At this point, he had already become my friend, saved my sisters several times, and was starting to gain a reputation as the Sterling family's lucky charm. He wasn't wearing servant's clothes, but rather designer clothes I had given him, looking more like the Sterling young master than I did, with his proud demeanor. Now his face was full of grievance, a grown man biting his lower lip as he spoke. I specifically asked Aunt Sarah. She said seafood was your favorite. Are you not eating it now because I made it? Don't worry, I followed Aunt Sarah's instructions step by step. The act had gone on long enough, but I remained silent. Julian started getting anxious. "Arthur, why are you ignoring me? Did you start looking down on me because I came from the slums, thinking I'm dirty?" I opened my mouth, but could only manage some meaningless sounds. I raised my hand to my throat, trying to force myself to say something, afraid that upsetting Julian would give those three sisters who adored him another excuse to torment me. But I couldn't utter a complete sentence. Catherine's gaze shifted between Julian and me, her eyes deep. "Arthur, is this the upbringing of a Sterling? Regardless, this is Julian's kind gesture. Even if you don't want to eat it, you should." I lowered my eyes, laughing coldly inside. These three already had eyes only for Julian. How could I possibly look down on you? You'll be the other master of the Sterling house soon enough. What right do I, a disabled person kicked out to live in the slums, have to look down on you? Anyone who didn't know better would think Julian was your actual brother, the way you defend him. Oh right, I forgot. Not a brother, but a lover boy. Brother? Does anyone even remember I'm allergic to seafood? My life just doesn't matter. For some reason, the dinner table suddenly fell silent. The three women who had seemed cheerful moments before suddenly turned cold, their conversation halting. I forced down the nauseatingly rich seafood bite by bite, fighting the urge to vomit, and managed to smile at Julian. Catherine's face, initially dark as if a hidden thought had been exposed, saw me quickly finish the seafood as I turned pale and started to leave. She quickly reached out. "Arthur." Elena shot her a glare, signaling her to shut up, then turned to me gently. "Arthur, are you not feeling well today? Let me take a look, okay?" She was a doctor. In my past life, she prescribed my heart medication, and she was the one who stopped it. She watched me suffer, having long forgotten that I was once the brother she cherished. I stood on the stairs, looking back, my expression hidden in the shadows, unseen by anyone. "Just a minor allergy. It won't kill me. I'm really tired. Stop tormenting me. I'll agree to anything." Elena froze, her face paling as she apologized to me. "I didn't mean to forget you're allergic to seafood. Didn't mean to forget." Such a clumsy, laughable excuse. I couldn't be bothered with their pretenses anymore and turned, leaving without a backward glance. I knew it. As soon as Julian appeared, no matter what I did, I would be the one not favored. So I just decided to give up trying. A sudden knock on the door pulled me back from my chaotic thoughts. Julian was back with his usual heart-wrenching look of grievance, his voice choked with tears as he knocked repeatedly, as if he wouldn't stop until I opened up. "Arthur, what's wrong? Did I do something to upset you? I apologize. Please don't ignore me, okay? Aren't we best friends?" His words sounded incredibly pitiful, but I heard another voice simultaneously in my ear. It was still Julian's voice, but what it said was the complete opposite of his spoken words. System, what the hell is wrong with Arthur? His recent actions weren't in the script. Now those supporting female characters think I'm bullying him. My affection points dropped by 10. Then came another mechanical voice. Rest assured, host. I've checked. Their affection levels for you are still above 50. The loss points are within controllable limits. I instantly felt like I'd fallen into an ice cave. A chill climbed up my spine to the back of my neck. Even though I was in a warm room, I couldn't help but shiver. Those voices again. In my past life, after Julian framed me and I was briefly unconscious from the car accident, I often heard Julian communicating with this mechanical voice near me. I heard them plotting to ruin the Sterling family, to use it as his stepping stone. After waking up, I immediately went to Catherine to tell her about it. But no matter what I said, all I got was Catherine's disgusted glare. Julian emerged from Catherine's study, a room no one else was allowed into, looking like the perfect male green tea character. Catherine dear, maybe Arthur is just confused for a moment and did something rash. It's okay. I forgive him. Catherine's expression grew uglier under Julian's show of magnanimity. She scolded me in a low voice. Arthur, how could you become like this? After failing to frame Julian with a car accident, now you try to slander him in front of me? And he even took care of you while you were unconscious, asking me not to blame you. I don't remember the rest clearly, only that from that moment on, I was truly cast out by the Sterling family. My small suitcase held only a few simple clothes. It was pouring rain outside, but Catherine's expression didn't change one bit as she roughly pushed me out. She looked down at me, covered in mud and filth. Arthur, since you can't tolerate Julian, from now on, the Sterling family will no longer recognize you as its young master. Without the status of Sterling young master, what do you think you amount to? Recalling all this made even my body tremble. What act is he putting on now? I didn't need to guess. I knew Julian wasn't alone outside the door. Wonder whose favor he's trying to curry this time? Doesn't matter whose. It has nothing to do with me anymore. I'm leaving the Sterling house anyway. Knowing I couldn't avoid it, I took a deep breath and opened the door. Julian's knocking hand stopped midair. Unembarrassed, he reached to take my hand, but I stepped aside, dodging him. Arthur. He dragged out my name, his eyes darting towards Maya, standing behind him. If something's wrong, just tell me, okay? Don't ignore me. In his past life, he was only nicer to me when my sisters were around. His act just now was likely for Maya's benefit. Maya remained silent for a long moment before finally speaking, but it was to defend Julian. She looked at me searchingly, her eyes filled with hidden worry. Arthur, I heard from Catherine and Elena these past few days. Is there some misunderstanding between you and Julian? Weren't you good friends before? You don't know how many times he's cried secretly because you've been ignoring him lately. She sighed, adopting a tone of complete concern for me. I know a very famous psychologist. If there's something you don't want to tell Catherine or Elena, tell me. I'll take you to see them tomorrow, okay? So, without understanding anything, she wanted to send me to a psychologist. Right. In your eyes, anyone who dislikes Julian must have psychological problems, correct? When you let your fans cyberbully me, I didn't see you worrying about my mental state. Are you trying to vent Julian's anger again? Maybe lock me up in a mental hospital this time? Maya froze, her expression gradually twisting. She looked at Julian, then at me, and finally down at her own hands in disbelief. Arthur, she began hesitantly. Did I do something wrong? Please don't hate me, okay? My face filled with alertness. I shook my head and quickly shut the door again. After the door closed, I heard a thud, followed by Julian's pained cry. Catherine dear. The system screamed a warning. Affection from female supporting character Maya -10. Current affection level has dropped below 50. Host, please find a way to raise the affection level immediately. Don't call me that. Maya's voice sounded somewhat grim. Those two idiots above me might have been fooled by you, but I haven't. You'd better give me an explanation, or I don't mind. I couldn't hear the rest. Presumably, they had walked away. I didn't understand Maya's sudden change, nor did I want to care. Seeing how protective they were of Julian already, repeating the mistakes of the past life was just a matter of time. Whatever Julian planned to do to the Sterling family, it had nothing to do with me anymore. For me, nothing was more important than staying alive. I rarely returned to the Sterling house anymore, which meant Julian appeared there more and more often. The Sterling family, afraid of causing trouble for me, had always kept my identity hidden from the public. Outsiders only knew the Sterlings had a young master who wasn't in good health and had been doted on since childhood, but not who he was. Now Julian had practically assumed that title. He didn't deny it publicly. When asked, he would just purse his lips and smile without saying anything. To others, this looked like tacit confirmation that he was the Sterling young master. My roommate, David, glanced at me and sneered. "Arthur, how come you're not hanging out with Julian anymore? Weren't you two riding in the Sterling car together at the start of the semester? What happened? Had a falling out with Julian, and now he won't even let you ride in the Sterling car?" I glanced at him, lowered my head to organize my homework, and ignored him. But he reacted as if I'd stepped on a sore spot, throwing down his phone. A scream came from a game character's death, and he snapped sharply, "Julian doesn't even want to deal with you anymore. You failed at latching onto the Sterlings, so stop pretending." Julian, sitting beside him, looked uncomfortable, tugging at David's sleeve and whispering, "David, let it go. Everyone knows Arthur hates me, right? I can't force things." David crossed his arms and huffed coldly. "I just can't stand his holier-than-thou attitude. Wasn't he desperately trying to get close to you before? What's with the act now?" He lowered his eyes, lost in thought for a moment, then looked at me viciously. "I'll see how long you can keep up this pretense." After delivering their threats, the two left. Before closing the dorm room door, Julian glanced back at me. His eyes were full of calculation. I heard him ask the system again, "Who has the highest affection level right now?" The system replied, "Currently it's Catherine. You need to hurry. An affection level of 60 is still too low. You must raise her affection to 80 within a week, or you won't be able to foresee the upcoming plot points." Upcoming plot points? I remember Catherine going to sign a contract, but getting trapped at sea. Julian rescued her, and that formed the basis of their relationship. Whatever. What did any of that have to do with me? I gathered my things, intending to go to the library, but encountered strange looks on the way. Someone pointed at me. "Isn't he the one they're talking about on the forum?" "Yeah, must be Arthur, right? Ruthless social climber trying to get into a wealthy family. Heard he fell out with Julian because he failed trying to climb into the Sterling sisters' beds." What? That's disgusting. I used to see him and Julian being so close. No wonder they don't even talk when they see each other now. Well, if your friend tried to seduce your sisters, would you still talk to him? True. This Arthur guy is really shameless. Could have been a decent person, but chose to be a kept man. I kept my head down, trying to ignore the comments, but a clear voice stopped me in my tracks. Julian had somehow appeared near the library again. He walked over and grabbed my hand tightly, preventing me from leaving. "Arthur, don't listen to their nonsense. It's all a misunderstanding. They don't believe you, but I do." He said this, but only repeated subjective sentiments, never offering any proof of my innocence. Onlookers would only praise his kindness, not believe I hadn't done those things. What a classic case of the thief crying thief. My silence was taken as admission, and the crowd's insults intensified rather than diminished. Julian looked even more aggrieved and helpless than I did, his eyes brimming with tears as he looked at me. Here we go again. Does Julian have any other move besides crying? I kept my eyes down, wanting only to get away from him, but couldn't shake off his grip. His system suddenly blared a warning. "Female supporting character Maya is approaching this location. Host, please maintain your persona and avoid any actions that will decrease affection." Julian's expression changed instantly. Then, with a tearful voice, he defended me even louder. "Stop talking about Arthur. He's not that kind of person. You've all misunderstood him. With an act like this, anyone would think we're best friends. I supposedly seduced your sisters, yet you still defend me like this. Truly magnanimous." I lowered my head with a sneer, my gaze falling on my reddened wrist, frowning belatedly. Maya's voice cut through the crowd from the edge. Not what kind of person. Even with a hat and sunglasses, she couldn't hide her striking figure. Soon one of her ardent fans recognized her, screaming, "Isn't that Maya? It must be. Looks like she's here to back Julian up." After all, her brother was deceived by a bed-climbing lowlife like Arthur, but still stubbornly wants to be friends with him. Sister is so beautiful. If I knew, I would have talked to Julian more. Maybe he could have gotten me her autograph. The noise was overwhelming. As the center of the incident, I felt completely detached from everything. When is this farce going to end? Isn't Maya here to support Julian? What's she waiting for? Shouldn't she hurry over, push me down, and yell at me a bit? Maya frowned amidst the surprised and gossiping stares. She walked straight towards Julian, then handed the cake she was holding to me. Standing behind Julian, her voice was full of affection. Arthur, I've been so busy with work lately, I haven't had time to see you. Are you settling into the dorm okay? How about moving into my apartment near campus? Oh right, this is the strawberry cake I bought for you. I was in a rush today and couldn't get it from your favorite bakery. I'll get it for you next time, okay? The crowd fell silent for a moment. Even Julian's face grew increasingly grim. I pressed my lips together tightly, unwilling to accept the cake. What crazy stunt are you pulling now? I get it. You want to use the same old trick. Make people at school misunderstand our relationship and then have them bully me, right? Maya, you really never tire of the same tactic. Students plus your rabid fans. With that combo, maybe getting acid thrown on me like last time would be getting off easy. The memory of that bone-deep pain and the pervasive, prying humiliation made me tremble all over. Indeed, nothing good ever happened when Julian was involved. Maya's face darkened, and she snapped angrily. What are you all talking about? Arthur seducing me. The Sterling family has always had only one young master, and that's Arthur. Julian is just hired help in our house. How did he become the Sterling young master? The system reported Maya's affection dropping again and again. Julian finally panicked. He had assumed Maya's pity for him meant she would never reveal his servant status. Now everyone who had just insulted me turned their malicious gazes towards him. His face turned deathly pale, tears streaming down as he cried out. So what if I'm hired help? At least I earn my own money through hard work, unlike you young masters and Mrs. Bourne with silver spoons who just have to reach out for anything you want. But even so, you can't trample my dignity underfoot. My background might not compare to yours, but I'm never inferior to you. His sudden outburst stunned everyone present. Even Maya looked unusually guilty. Julian, seeing his chance, tearfully ran off. The system promptly announced, "Congratulations, host. Affection from female supporting character Maya, plus 20, back to 50. Knowing I was the actual Sterling young master shifted everyone's attitude strangely. David even posted an apology under the anonymous thread that accused me of bed climbing. It was all because I believed Julian's nonsense that I posted that thread. All the ambiguous evidence in it was provided by Julian. He used me. I hope Arthur can be the bigger person and not pursue this. I sincerely apologize to you here." "I'm sorry, Arthur." Suddenly, even more people started criticizing Julian. They called him vain and unscrupulous, the type to bite the hand that feeds him. He talked about self-reliance, about being hired help not maturing, yet when his job was mentioned, he cried and made a scene. If he truly didn't care about status differences, why didn't he clarify when people mistook him for the Sterling young master? Unfortunately, I didn't pay much attention to the forums. All I knew was Catherine called. Her voice cold, summoning me back home. It didn't take a genius to figure out she wanted to stand up for Julian. I deliberately delayed until dusk before knocking on the Sterling door. Julian sat crying in the center of the three sisters. The scene instantly reminded me of the last image I saw before dying in my previous life. Here we go again. Maya looked the most conflicted. She wanted to come greet me, but ultimately stayed by Julian's side. "Arthur, what you did this time was really too much." "Me? Excessive? I don't even know what I supposedly did." It was Julian who didn't clarify his identity and even encouraged others to spread rumors that I was a bed-climbing lowlife. Have I ever said a single bad word about him or defended myself even once? Right. They probably think this was all my scheme to frame Julian. But none of them care that the trauma from the past has left me unable to speak. Understanding their accusatory stance, I stopped at the doorway, not taking another step closer. This Sterling house no longer had a place for me. Maya's expression changed, as if she finally understood something. She quickly walked towards me. "Arthur, you." Julian's system started blaring frantically. Female supporting character Maya affection -10, current affection 40. Female supporting character Maya affection -10, current affection 30. Female supporting character Elena affection -10, current affection 40. Elena and Maya's affection levels dropped alternately. Only Catherine gave me a deep look, showing no reaction. Seeing this, Julian seemed to grasp a lifeline, throwing himself at Catherine, grabbing her hand, tears streaming. "Catherine dear, You know I'm not that kind of person. What I care about in the Sterling house was never the money. It was you all. You were like my real family, letting me feel the warmth of home. Perhaps my existence threatened Arthur. Before he could finish, Elena interrupted coolly. So he what? You came to the Sterling house not for money? Who would believe that? If you really weren't after money, when Arthur gave you those limited edition clothes and sports cars, why didn't you refuse with the dignity and backbone Maya mentioned? Maya, though a good actress, was slow on the uptake. Elena's words finally made her see the holes in Julian's story. She flushed with anger. Yeah, if you really didn't care, why did you insist on riding in the Sterling car with Arthur to school? Why didn't you explain when people mistook you for the Sterling young master? You didn't care? You cared desperately. In an instant, both their affection levels were nearly depleted. Julian, pale as death, could only cling tightly to Catherine. Catherine's eyes softened as she gently stroked his hair. Julian, don't be afraid. As long as you haven't done anything wrong, I will stand up for you. So please don't disappoint me. Julian leaned against her dependently, then in a corner hidden from everyone else, shot me a provocative glance. Even if Elena and Maya's affection dropped, the real power in the Sterling family lay with Catherine. As long as he captured Catherine's heart, what was there to worry about? He was determined to become the male master of the Sterling house. He frantically called out to his system internally. System, since Elena and Maya's affection is already tanked, I want to use their remaining affection to unlock the next plot point related to Catherine. The system seemed hesitant. Host, are you sure you want to do this? Once affection drops into the negative, it's a completely different concept. These supporting female characters will utterly despise you. Julian dismissed it. Just 2 supporting characters. How much trouble can they cause even if they hate me? Hurry up and make the exchange. System ding. Plot point exchange successful. Current Elena affection -10, Maya affection -20. Plot point unlocked. Catherine will be trapped at sea while signing a contract in half a month. Host can prepare in advance and provide assistance. This will surely win Catherine over completely. A look of confident determination appeared on Julian's face. Seeing through his thoughts, I smiled coldly. Well then, I wish you success in rescuing Catherine with your system's help. Catherine will surely fall deeply for you. After all, saving someone's life. If you use that as leverage to marry Catherine, she might even agree. Bringing someone who wants to destroy the Sterling family into the fold. Marrying the eldest sister while flirting with the other 2. What great fortune for the Sterling family. Bless you both. Hope you're locked together forever. Just hope they leave me alone soon. I really don't want to be part of your games. Catherine looked at me intently. Her expression was too complex for me to decipher, but I boldly guessed she wanted to kick me out like last time, just finding it hard to say so. I packed my own bags and left the Sterling house. I took everything that belonged to me, even transferring my money to a new bank card. That's why I wasn't as destitute as last time, forced to rent a broken-down shack. Elena and Maya visited me often, whether out of guilt or pretense, their eyes filled with pity when they looked at me. Elena always found time to come by, trying to chat with me like teaching a child to speak. Seeing no reaction from me, she would leave disappointed. Maya suggested taking me to a doctor more than once, but I refused each time with a shake of my head. Half a month after moving out, I received an invitation to an art exhibition at sea hosted by my favorite painter. Without much thought, I packed my things and went. However, the area on the cruise ship dedicated to the art exhibition was pitifully small. Most of it was for the amusement and entertainment of wealthy merchants and dignitaries. I saw Catherine there, and standing beside her, looking dapper and composed in a suit, was Julian. He seemed to have expected my arrival, a sarcastic smile playing on his lips. He said to his system, since someone has to die in this plot point, why can't it be Arthur? If he hadn't been born into the Sterling family, what would he be? Better off being my stepping stone. At least his death would serve a purpose. Catherine clearly saw me too. She frowned, a sense of foreboding seeming to wash over her. She turned to look at Julian, apparently questioning him about something. When she looked back, I had already vanished into the crowd. Julian's vicious voice echoed in my ears like a persistent shadow. Go ahead and be smug, Arthur. Let's see who has the last laugh. I sighed, wanting to curse him but not knowing where to start. I knew his intentions weren't pure, but I hadn't expected his plan to be so audacious. Even standing in the crowd looking at the exhibition, his people managed to drug me and take me away. When I woke up, I was hanging like bait outside the ship, only 2 or 3 meters above the dark, turbulent sea. And beside me, in the same predicament, hung Julian. Seeing me awake, he quickly squeezed out a couple of crocodile tears, crying out, "Catherine dear, Arthur's awake. Save Arthur instead. My life isn't worth much." The man in the suit beside him spoke gravely. "Well, Catherine, have you made your decision? One is your actual brother, the other your lover boy. Decide who you want to save." At this point, how could I not understand Julian's intention? He just wanted to use Catherine's choice to break my heart. Too bad he miscalculated. The moment I died tragically before, I had already shed all familial affection. It wasn't worth it. I didn't care about Catherine's choice. I only cared if I could survive. Catherine raised her hand, hesitated for a moment, then slowly pointed towards Julian, saying solemnly, "You let Julian go. He's innocent." The man in the suit burst out laughing. "Excellent, Catherine. I never thought you'd stoop to sacrificing family for a pretty face. I wasn't wrong about you." He waved his hand, and someone pretended to untie Julian, but actually swiftly cut one of the ropes holding me, leaving the other on the verge of snapping. The man in the suit's face darkened. "Did you think I couldn't see through your little trick? You're just afraid I'll hurt your brother, so you pretended to care about Julian? Me? Could it be that was her genuine choice? Instead of saying she cares about my life, maybe she just didn't dare gamble on your intentions, afraid of putting Julian in danger. Whatever, they both escape in the end anyway, kissing on the lifeboat. Instead of using me as a pointless threat, why not just cut Julian now?" Catherine would probably burst into tears. Catherine's expression changed several times before she finally conceded. "Isn't it the Southside development bid you want? I'll withdraw from the competition, let him go." Julian automatically assumed Catherine meant him, his eyes welling up with tears of gratitude. "Catherine dear." The man in the suit waved dismissively. "Catherine, do you think you still have the right to bargain with me? Just the Southside project isn't enough. I also want the Sterling family's recent partnership deal." Even I knew about this partnership. It was the secret deal Julian later sold out. Why was this person demanding it now? The plot, unbeknownst to me, seemed to have changed significantly. Julian hadn't expected the man to be so greedy either. This wasn't what they had agreed upon at all. He wanted to use the Sterling family as a springboard into the elite circle, not cripple the family today. He coughed lightly twice, trying to remind the man in the suit, but was met with a threatening cut to one of his own ropes. The man glanced at him. "What are you coughing for? Weren't you the one who told me this information? Now you don't want me to say it?" Julian was completely stunned. He panicked instinctively, forgetting he was still suspended, and hurriedly explained, "What nonsense are you talking about? What do you mean I told you?" He frantically tried to signal with his eyes, having forgotten that making deals with tigers requires having enough strength yourself, otherwise you just become dessert. These people in high positions, born looking down on him, how could they care about supposed partnerships or contracts aside from him? Too bad he couldn't see it. Relying on his system to know the plot in advance, he naively believed everything would unfold according to his plan. A fierce wind rose, rocking the cruise ship with the surging waves. The already precarious ropes snapped abruptly. Julian screamed in terror at the sudden turn of events. "Catherine dear, save me." Then he watched as Catherine sprinted towards me. Not just him, even I stared wide-eyed. Catherine held me extremely tight, even using her own body as a human cushion, hitting the water hard before I did. She struggled to hold on to me, searching for something to grab onto while swallowing mouthfuls of salty seawater, yet still managed to comfort me. "Arthur, don't be afraid, sister is here." I was stunned for a moment, unsure what act she was putting on now, only daring to curse silently in my heart. What a performance! Isn't this supposed to be the part where you're holding Julian and calling him Dear Julian? Catherine's expression stiffened. Fortunately, the rescue team I had contacted beforehand arrived quickly. Even so, by the time I was pulled onto the speedboat, I was shivering uncontrollably from the cold. Catherine draped another thick coat over me before finally shifting her gaze towards the struggling figure in the distance. Julian had been unlucky. A large wave had swept him tens of meters away right after he fell in. By the time he was rescued, he was barely breathing. Once ashore, the man in the suit, who hadn't intended to cause a death, saw the police surrounding them and roared, Who Who called the police? I glanced at him and spoke softly. Who else? Of course it was me. Knowing Julian was up to no good, how could I not prepare in advance? Being able to hear Julian and the system's conversations, even without knowing the full plan, I had guessed the gist. So before boarding the cruise ship, I had arranged for both a rescue team and the police, ensuring not a single bad guy would get away. Catherine looked at me. For some reason, it seemed like she wanted to smile, but her lips twitched, and she ultimately showed no reaction. She looked at the unconscious Julian, her expression unreadable, and instructed her assistant, send him for treatment, preferably he doesn't die. She paused, then added, but he doesn't need to live too comfortably either. Julian of course didn't die, but his health was poor, and after soaking in the icy seawater for so long, he suffered irreversible health problems. As for his and the man in the suit's scheme, at minimum it was kidnapping and extortion, at maximum intentional assault. With the Sterling family involved, neither escaped. Each was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Catherine even took me to visit Julian. I didn't know her intentions, so I followed obediently behind her. Through the thick glass, Julian inside was already skeletal, but he firmly believed Catherine was there to rescue him. Catherine dear, why did it take you so long to save me? You came so late. Julian hurt so much. His eyes filled with tears. Catherine dear, everything that happened before was Arthur's idea. He set the whole thing up. He seemed convinced Catherine would believe him and that I wouldn't defend myself, readily throwing the blame onto me. Catherine looked at him and sneered. Still acting even now? It's pointless. Julian's face turned white. He frantically questioned his system internally. System, isn't Catherine's affection at 80? Why is she treating me like this? Logically, she should be head over heels in love with me by now. The system's voice nearly dissolved into static. The host being injured significantly impacts the system too. System check. Check failed. Female supporting character Catherine's current affection level. 80, 70, 60. 80 Julian me? What just happened? How did Catherine's affection drop so drastically? That shouldn't happen. 80 to minus 80 is too extreme. Did Julian's system actually malfunction? Julian was so shocked he started crying and wailing again, refusing to believe the system's data, screaming Catherine's name. After all, Catherine was now the only one who could possibly get him out. But Catherine ignored his pleas, stating coldly, looks like your so-called system isn't omniscient after all. Can't even penetrate a disguise, huh? Both Julian and I stared at her again, unified in our shock, looking at her as if we'd seen a ghost. I knew Julian had a system because I was reborn and could hear his thoughts. How did Catherine know? The source of our surprise, however, had no intention of answering. She simply looked coldly at Julian. Didn't you want to get out? Coincidentally, Elena's side has collaborated with a national lab. They're currently researching the human brain. Someone like you carrying a system must be perfect for research. Now, no matter how much Julian struggled, crying that he wanted to stay in prison, it was futile. His head was encased in an instrument, and he was wrapped up like a mummy before being sent off to the laboratory. I was forced to move back into the Sterling house. Without Julian, the three sisters seemed to have truly awakened, vying to be nicer to me, yet I could no longer find any sense of belonging in this home. Elena was very busy with the lab work. On her occasional visits home, she'd bring the latest news about Julian. We initially thought the system was just some abstract concept, but we actually found it in him, she said mysteriously. Guess where the system is? Maya immediately asked where. Elena tapped her head. In his brain. When we first scanned it, we thought the shadow was a lesion, but it turned out to be a cluster of data that our current technology can't decipher yet. Once we crack it, creating any kind of system should be possible. As for Julian, according to Elena, he was basically incapacitated now. His body couldn't withstand the intensity of the experiments and was discarded by the lab after deteriorating anyway. The system was in his head. All they needed was to keep his brain active. Catherine later talked to me at length. She said it was only after I moved back to school that she remembered things from before. Turned out she was reborn just like me. She learned about Julian's system from my inner thoughts. Fearing he might pull other tricks, she decided to play along, ultimately trapping Julian and his system in one fell swoop. Finally, she looked down at me holding my suitcase and asked hoarsely, Arthur, are you really going overseas? I stopped before the security checkpoint and nodded seriously at her. Regardless of whether Julian received his punishment this life, or whether the sisters awakened and realized their mistakes, the suffering I endured could not be erased. I couldn't ignore it, nor could I force myself to act as if nothing happened and continue being the carefree young master of the Sterling family. Rather than that, I preferred to study abroad, seriously pursue my dream of becoming a painter. As for their punishment, perhaps waking up from Julian's deception, realizing what they had done, was punishment enough for them. After all, their brother, the sterling young master, had already died by their own hands. I have to leave. Hearing me speak, Catherine froze instantly. Since realizing my words weren't meant for defense or explanation to others, my selective mutism had gradually improved, but I had never spoken in front of them. This was the first time. I walked through security, facing the blue sky and a brighter, better future. I didn't look back. The moment I decided to leave, I had completely let them go. Goodbye. From now on, I won't be your brother anymore. I am my own person.